Good morning everyone, my name's Jess Hodge and I'm one of the co-founders of Resourceful Living, and this is my story. So I came across this quote and it couldn't be more truer for myself. Definitely working with recycled plastic, one day it does what it's supposed to do on paper and the other day it has a completely different plan. And we have come up with that we use this quote regularly in the workshop, that it's not a fail, we've just found another way that it won't work. So there was a few defining factors early in my life that have led me to this point. One was I got a degree of communications and marketing from the University of Canberra. And I got my first job, which was great in websites, and it lasted 1 year and the business folded. From then I was out of work for 8 months, and it was really gut-wrenching to be told that I was overqualified, no, I'm not the right fit, and I was letting these people dictate what my life was going to be like. But while I was out of work, I was organising my wedding. So while we were doing that, we'd picked to go to Thailand and we'd seen some beautiful images of beaches. And then COVID hit and I really thought about all the waste and looking at all my neighbours who suddenly in lockdown had gotten these massive skip bins, that's supposed to be a skip bin, and they were throwing all this stuff out, which were perfectly fine tables and chairs, which now some may be in my living room. But it just made me think of how wasteful we are. So they were a few of the biggest ones. I also started my own marketing business, which I ran for 5 years and then sold it. And now I'm doing something that I totally love. So this was the beach at Thailand, which did not look like the image that our travel agent had shown us. And so I was really shocked that this was every single day. And being someone that had gone to Foster every single year, multiple school holidays, I just couldn't let our beaches turn into this, where every morning there was skip bins and people cleaning up. So I thought, what can we do? We need to do something. So I researched the problem and I just put a few little facts up there about plastic. We all know it's really bad, but it's a really good material if we don't just, use it for 5 seconds and throw it out. So our solution was to create products that were 100% made from recycled plastic, that were furniture items that could go back into the home, not in the cubby house. I have had a lot of people say, oh, that red table and chairs that's perfect for my kids. No, we wanted cool looking furniture that you'd be proud to be like, hey, this is 800 milk cartons. And we realised that there was a really big gap in the market in terms of what sort of products were available with recycled. So you'll see on a lot of trucks, they say, yeah, we've been recycling for 30 years. Okay, everyone name a product that you've got in your house that you've bought, that you use on a regular day, that is a recycled product. Not many of us have anything. So we also thought about educating consumers, not just on buying products of recycled goods, but also like talking to them about repairing and reusing, and actually thinking of recycling as a last resort, not as like, oh, first resort, here we go. How can I get more life out of it? And also we've been talking lots and sending plastics down to a business in Sydney who actually can process the plastic back into oil once it's too brittle and then make new plastic. But that's a whole nother advanced manufacturing side. So a few of our challenges, now I just picked our favourite ones. There's been a lot. Originally we went with stainless steel and plastic sticks very well to that. So we've gone with mild steel. This image here, we got a whole big 500 kilos of pink and orange that were vitamin bottles. And so because we'd never done vitamin bottles before. We didn't realize they were coated in some particular things, and every time we tried to heat it up, it would smash like glass, which is a perfect example of 10,000 ways that it didn't work. We also had to, with HDP, is one of the best plastics due to not being able to shatter, not being able, bacteria, but its shrinkage rate is horrible. It is up at 10%. So that's one thing that we've been working through to try and get maximum out so that when it does shrink back, we don't end up with a huge, big shrinkage rate. Plastic is so strong that it breaks our molds that are made of steel. I actually just recently, as in the other day, we put a sheet in the press that I may have squished a bit too hard because I love seeing it when it's all out. And from the front it looked awesome, and from the back it had broken the back side of the frame out. And it really made me stop and think and go, we are using such a strong material to hold milk. Yet here it is, breaking metal frames. So after a few, about 6 months worth of challenges that we got through, we came up with a range of sorts of products that we would start to sell. We obviously went compression, so that's why predominantly at the moment most of our products are 2D. So, but it's so versatile, so we were able to come up with quite a different variety. Now, launching to market is a bit of an interesting story. We launched our website on the same day that I had my third baby. So you'll notice if you ever see on our social medias that I was going, oh, thank you so much. And then there's about a 6-hour gap. That's where I had a baby. And then we were back to it. So last year we did markets every single weekend. I am a pro at gazebo, so if anyone needs any help, I'm right on that. And it was something that I hadn't put into our business plan, but we definitely needed it. It wasn't until we launched to market did I realize that most people don't type into Google, recycle plastic table, buy. Whereas when we went to the markets, as soon as people could touch it, they could chat to us about it, they walked themselves out, which was wonderful. So we went all around New South Wales showing people, educating people, and just sharing the story, which people really resonate. So we don't change the colour of our plastic, and the reason we don't do that is so when you go grocery shopping or you're out and about, you can see that exact colour. So you know if it's Vanish that we've used, you know if it's Omo, you know if it's milk, because it's the exact same colour, and we want people to get that rapport with the plastic so that they know, oh, you really are recycling. You're not just telling me you are, but you actually are. And with us not adding any additives, we're actually able to recycle the HDP 8 to 10 times before it is too brittle. So if you think of something like, for us, a lot of our stuff is about third life, second to third life, so it comes to us as the container, we then change it into a table, and then, when you've had enough of it, I want it back so that then we can shred it up and make it into something new again. The other thing that really we wanted to do was full plastic, so plastic legs, plastic top, plastic everything. But what we did realise when we launched to market is people definitely prefer metal legs, and I think that's because we've been brought up that it's really stable, looks nice. So we did change our products a little bit to reflect that. But excitingly, we're at the moment making 100 stools and coffee tables fully out of plastic. So I mean, it would be a lot quicker in metal, but anyway. So there's a few things that I've learned about myself over this journey, and there's some of the words. One thing that I didn't add is having a Spotify playlist that consists of Queen, We Are the Champions. At the end of last year, Spotify advised me that I was in the top 2% for listening to that song. And I was like, oh, right. You know, if I could give you some background, you'd probably understand. And this picture is a perfect example of how recycled plastic sometimes can do my head in. So we got 2 bags of milk cartons that were already pelletized for us. 1 bag was done at 10 mil length and 1 bag was done at 5 mil. So the legs in the top image, as a sheet, it was 65 kilos of white to 500 grams of black to get that terrazzo look. And so with the 5 mil, which is the bigger one behind it, we thought, oh, we'll just do the same thing. And we are now, to try and get the same leg shape one, we are now doing 65 kilos white to 25 grams black. So the 5 mil, just the black just eats it all up. So we do quite a few test sheets, and it's just something that when we're chatting to our clients, that we can get the same bag, the same material from the same place, and it can still be a bit different. So it's definitely not a cookie cutter option, but they've all got their own character, is what I explain it to people. So where are we now? The picture up at the top, we were in a little 100 square metre location in Beresfield, which we nicknamed the Starter, and it fulfilled very well for us. The bottom picture, which is a bit fuzzy because I couldn't really find it, was our first 13 tonnes worth of plastic, which I never thought I was going to buy someone else's waste. But excitingly, in February, we moved to Kurri Kurri to 2,600 square metres because we just grew out of that 100 square metres, which now we look at 100 square metres in our current factory is 2 big concrete squares. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we used to fit all our machines in there. We recently, from doing the Accelerator course last year, we changed more to a business-to-business model, which has been absolutely wonderful in terms of, I guess, businesses buy more bulk than one-offs, but we continue to do consumer because I want people to see how good of a product it is. Just this week we sent a brown outdoor table setting down to Victoria just for a mum and dad and a few kids, so it was nice that, you know, they're still being able to purchase as well. We're also doing a lot of education with school students in the area. So I've got like a little mini extruder system that they put pellets in, and it makes noodles and all sorts of fun things. And just getting children involved, I've really noticed it's changing their mindset of what recycling really means, in terms of we need to talk about manufacturing, not just collecting and washing. So actually today we had our very first employee start full time. So and I am not, he is not part of our family. He is not related to me. So that is even better. I didn't even know where he lived. So that was really wonderful. And we're also getting some people from Maywell involved as well, because we have a lot of tasks in our factory that suit a variety of people, and we want to be a really inclusive employer. And the fact that like I can be a real boss, not just my husband, is like super exciting. We've had a lot of interest from overseas. Definitely Canada and the US. We've sent a lot of things over there, but I have put that in a bit of the too hard basket for exporting, because it's only me that's doing the computer work. And but it's exciting that that's kind of our next vision. And if you go to the Australian Open at the end of the year, you'll see some stools. So I'm trying to smile really big and work really hard, and then I'll buy myself a ticket so I can go and sit on a stool that I made in January next year. But yeah, so we're definitely going from strength to strength. It's really exciting that now we can start to get some more people on board, which will pull me and my husband out of doing the day-to-day work and actually focusing on next levels. So this is just an example of some of the work that we've been completing. We did these tables here for HunterNet, just a coffee table that we did, and Botanica Bird is the countertop on the other side there in Islington. A school cafeteria, that's the stool. Sick of seeing that at the moment. A side table we did, and then one of our biggest things was we actually made garbage bins for Sydney Pride this year, which was just mind-blowing. I didn't realise we were going to make bins, but anyway, it was just great that we were able to join with Coca-Cola and create these bins that they told people how many kilos they'd put into the bin and what it could be manufactured into, and yeah, so that's probably one of my highlights that have happened recently, and I just love the photo. And so over the last couple of years, it's been wonderful to be recognised for our hard work and what we've been up to. So even becoming a finalist, I'm just over the moon. So it's been definitely one hell of a ride, but it is so much better than a marketing visitor. And so we do a lot of education from young kids. We've done quite a lot of churches as well. So doesn't matter what age, everyone loves putting pellets into an extruder. We've also had a lot of politicians come through, which has been exciting to share what we're trying to do locally as well as keep it in Australia. I mean, we've got enough of our own waste. Let's, keep more jobs and it all here. So there's one thing that I wish I knew, or maybe I was just naive, I'm not sure. But if I could start again, I would have put a lot more in the early days into education rather than, and I suppose I would have split it a bit more. So I would have left Jeff, who is our materials and mechanical engineer, to focus on the products, and I would have done more education early on rather than just assuming that people understood what recycled was, what manufacturing is. I feel that if we did that from an earlier stage, we probably would have hit where we are now actually earlier, because people would have really grabbed on and understood. Whereas, I don't know, I think sometimes I went, oh, well, I know what I'm doing, everyone else would know what I'm doing. I'm really shocked at even just down to different types of plastics. We get told, the amount of times I've been asked to make candles is just horrifying. Yes, because they love the colour, and they're like, oh, you just put a wick, and I'm like, oh, and then I get, oh, it's not a great idea, it is toxic if you burn it. But they think, oh, the colour, you could just put a cover over it. And then my head goes to fabric, because that'd be bad. So, that's probably as far as I'd go. Like, fire and plastic aren't great friends. And so I guess the other thing would be educating people is you can't just put every single type of plastic that you've ever witnessed into the same pot and stir it together, which is one reason why we don't take public waste, because I am petrified that someone would just drop a bag of who knows what at my door. And for the most part, when we did start, we did consumer waste, but it's very dirty. There's probably a few of you in here that clean your plastic, but on the most part, what I've seen, most people don't, I don't think. So that's why we've also gone more business waste, because there's actually quite a lot of clean business waste. We're working a lot with Hunter New England Health. They've got a lot of waste that doesn't touch anyone. It's got nothing on it. It's mind-blowing. And we made a pot plant with it recently, and I went to Bunnings and I bought an orange tree with an orange in it, and I planted it out the front. So I only did that the other day, so it's not actually in my slide. So one of my greatest lessons is during school, I really struggled with science and maths. When I got to year 11, I dropped those like hot potatoes. And I guess one of my greatest lessons is like just knowing that what I did in school actually doesn't define me for my entire career. I am loving pretending I'm a scientist. I mean, it's very helpful having a materials and sustainable engineer, but it's one of those things that now doing this, like I just enjoy science and recycled plastic so much that if you'd asked 17-year-old me if I would do this as an adult, I'd be like, oh, no way, no way. I was apparently going to help people with lost passports, which is even more hilarious. So, and yeah, I just want to say thank you so very much for your time today, and keep watch. We're going bigger.
It's an incredible story, and I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say it was incredibly inspiring. And I personally think that the best slides that you had up there, other than the fact that you're incredibly successful, is that what you learned about yourself. Because I looked around the room and we have a lot of our pre-accelerator participants in the room, and I think you talking a bit about what you've learned over this journey is so important for them, because they're just starting it, some of them, and some of them are a little bit further along, but yeah, really important. So we do have some questions that some people submitted when they first signed up for this startup story, so we're going to read them out to you, and if you just want to answer them, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
At least. Okay, so first of all, from Kathy Zontos from Footy Girls, she asks, are you able to make a recycled fabric?
No, I'm not actually sure how people do that, but I think we need more manufacturing of that in. I want to do all our uniforms as recycled like fabric, not swimwear. And yeah, I think the closest place is actually Thailand that does a lot of the fibre making. So I definitely think it's a space that could come here.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't actually know how they do that. It mind blows me.
It's also interesting that Thailand is the place, and that's where you...
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Amazing. So Peter Morrissey from HunterNet Cooperative has asked, just moved to a new premises, so what criteria was involved in deciding to make that move?
Okay, so before we started our business, we created what we call the COM, and it has from onboarding employees to our marketing to our scaling ideas. And it also had when we needed to get new employees and when we had to move premise. So we'd put a few things in there. One was that we couldn't finish an order within 2 weeks, and the other was that we didn't have a 2 metre gap between people, which was just a rattle. Anyway, we got to the point that we were getting some orders and we were putting them all in our showroom. It was a massive trip hazard. We were sharing one table to do packing orders, sanding, cutting, finishing, and when we got to the point that we were kind of saying to each other, "You nearly done? I need the table." We thought this is the time to move, and yeah, now we've got a dispatch area, we've got a finishing area, and it's just. Even though our orders have got bigger and more of it, being able to have the space actually makes us feel more relaxed than when we're at our old place. And it was like, well, I don't know what we do with it once it's finished. I mean, they don't want to send, we were doing 40 tables at that point, like one table every day, like that. So yeah, that's probably why we decided to move.
Yeah, perfect. Yang from 5 Pedals has asked, is there a lot of marketing effort to create awareness for the company, or because of the cause is awareness just already generated?
Definitely a lot of awareness was made during all our markets last year. I think without markets we would not be where we are. That's where I met a lot of people from all walks of life, all businesses. And I think it's, people don't really search for it as such. So I think now it's getting a lot more organic because I haven't had to do markets at all this year. I don't have time to do markets. So we're doing like sustainability days and more the bigger sorts of, like we'll be at the Lake Macquarie Smart Festival and things like that we're doing. But yeah, early on it was, we had to go out and chat to people and show them what we were actually doing.
Okay. And Ryan from RAM Manufacturing has asked, how much plastic have you diverted from the waste cycle to date, and how much do you hope to divert over the lifetime of Resourceful Living?
A lot. So I think we're about 50 tonnes currently. One machine that we've got does can do 50 tonnes, but we've now added a few more machines from there. Honestly, I would like to probably hit 200 tonnes a year, and then I'm hoping this will just take me through to retirement. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm aiming.
Perfect. And then Sam from Red Manufacturing has said, how long did it take you to build your sheet press machines?
About 3 months, and it was a collaboration between my dad, who did the electronics because he's an electrician, Jeff, who's mechanical engineer, and then we had a friend who's a sheet metal worker help us out, and I bought everything online as random little pieces. So then it kind of arrived, and then there was a few trials, and somehow it ended up huge, so it's like way taller than me. Our factory is made for giants, not me.
And then Maddie from Blue Kino has said, in light of the failures of some larger businesses in this space, in your view, what's the key to successful large-scale plastic recycling?
I think adaptability would be one, rather than trying to force people to, like I said, with the plastic legs to the metal legs, being able to quickly change. I think one thing with us still being small is, as decision makers, we're in it, we're talking to the customer, we know exactly where people are thinking or where they're going, and so we can make those changes straight away. I mean, Jeff and I are terrible at meetings. We probably have like one a week. Whereas I think sometimes big business can get a bit bogged down. James Bradley told me last year that the best money was customer money, and I am living with that. So the other thing is our business is only growing as we get customer money in, which means I'm probably treating it similar to my own home finances, but we don't have any debt on the business. So we just use profit that we get from orders to then buy new machines or do that. And I think sometimes bigger businesses probably take on a lot more debt, but we're also not crazy risky.
And then the last question I have here, and then we can go to some audience questions, is Dane from Benedict Recycling says, do we need more plastic or less plastic in our lives?
Less plastic. I think if there's any option to go cardboard or hemp or anything, do it, and we leave plastic for places that can't change. So, cars, I mean, you wouldn't want a degradable car button, and hospitals is probably a big one that, you don't want to have recycled. You want brand new plastic if you're going into surgery, and I think if they can stick with that, they actually create enough waste that we'll always be in a job.
Well, if anyone else has any questions, we do have about 10 minutes until the parking people come. So is there anyone that has a question for? Yeah?
I love it. Just a comment on that last one, on reducing. I guess my passion is about reducing, and I see a lot of people who buy unnecessary stuff, and even hospitals, they can use metals and autoclave it, and they have for a long time, and it's very sterile. And I think when I see your education piece, I would love to put reduce in there first, because I see people throwing things in the recycling bin and they go, I buy all this unnecessary stuff, like unnecessary packaging, but I recycle it. Oh, really? What are you recycling into?
They feel good.
Like, feel good, that's it.
That's why we're also heard over Red Cycle, like, because we felt good about it, yet they weren't actually doing an end market, which is where it falls down.
A more technical question. So some of the high-grade plastics, particularly bottles, can be recycled, but once they've downcycled into something lower down the life, they can't be upcycled into something of a higher grade. I'm just keen on your comments on that.
Well, I guess for us, we're not looking to create them back into bottles that would then, as in like, downgrade a milk carton to a table back into a milk carton. So for us, we're always giving it value regardless of what it's going to become. So we can then still take it from a table into, say, a bookcase, into, say, then an artwork, then into a pot plant. And so they've all got their own value. So it's kind of not going back into supermarket sort of like holding material. So I think that's how we're trying to go around with keeping value in the plastic by creating different products, but not going back to the same sort of one.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
How has the National Plastics Plan affected your production costs and your business as a whole?
So a lot for us is we chose to do the manufacturing side of things. So a big cost for us is actually getting the pellets in. And so that's really impacted us because our cost of goods is quite high. And so we're trying really hard to be competitive against other plastics or virgin plastics. But because we've got that first level of just cleaning and washing, the scheme has actually, like, it's got to even out a little bit, I think. And so that's just made us really mindful of how long then we spend on actually making a product so that it doesn't blow out.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Jess. So just a question, maybe a two-part question. First, how scalable is what you're doing? Because you're saying there's a lot of variation from one batch of plastic to the next, even from the same sort of source. And sort of what's your vision like for the future? Is it taking over the world, or is it a lifestyle business?
Taking over the world.
Yeah.
And we created the business so it's kind of a cookie cut option is what I've kind of put in my head. So for every 2 machines we get a person. And so our idea is that our next point is another cold press, because we just got a new sheet press. We've got 2 CNCs now. And to kind of create like little micro manufacturing, but we also want to grow to the point that it's not all done in Curry, where we are at the moment, but local to areas. So looking at potentially putting like a satellite one in Tamworth, down south, so that then it's not being shipped all around, because that's another thing. Like, we get a lot of plastic from Melbourne and Perth, which is just ridiculous. So being able to then, have little resourceful living satellite business, that just makes me so excited. Means that, then the waste is not being shipped across the country. It's being more sustainable, and they can just process it there. And
will the locations be dictated by where you get your plastics from, like the hospitals? Is there a that's what we'd probably look at. Mm-hmm. But for the moment, I'm just gonna go big.
So you mentioned you were into 2D manufacturing.
Yes.
Do you think there's demand for 3D, and would you look at going towards that in the future?
So with our 3D extruder printer, there's been huge demand for our pot plants. So definitely looking towards that. And we do a little bit of injection molding, which does get a good reception as well. But interestingly, I think it's because the sheet press uses so much plastic that like tabletops just fly out of our factory. And I think it's because I can say, you know, well, a 1200 by 1200 20 mil is 33 kilos. So when an average empty bottle is around that 45 to 50 grams, it's like a really good feel-good story. And I think that's why our sheets are still by far our most popular, because everything else can't do that much.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah.
Can I ask the consumer, when we're all going to recycle and bringing all our things back in the cold and woolies and that fell over?
Yes.
Places like Tokyo have 9 bins that consumers sort to before all their various garbage. What would you see as the best way to consumers to do that sorting, the source, not necessarily at the store source, but at your home source, so that you can go direct from everyone's collecting that somehow and then going to a business like yours? What's the best way to separate plastic, beat up government, and go back to getting the industry to do it that way?
Yeah, so I would definitely have like just a plastics bin. Predominantly most of the plastics that consumers get are the thermoplastics, so they all to a point can be remanufactured. And I wouldn't have it that you can put all like paper and all other stuff in it. Yeah, like you would have like a paper and an organics bin, and then it is just like a plastic one. So you know that if it's got the triangle with the number in it goes. Would probably be the...
And what about the ones that don't have the triangle on? What about those plastics?
They can still go in. So we still do a lot of plastic that doesn't have a number on it. It turns out it is number 2. Because if it sticks together, then it's the same type of plastic. And yeah, because you'll find on lots of kids' toys, there's no number on that. I mean, personally, I think every type of plastic that comes in should have a number injection molded somewhere on it, so that then consumers do know exactly what type of plastic it is. Because I mean, you've got the lids, some of the lids that are number 4, that's the exact same as the soft plastics, yet lids can go into the yellow bin and be recycled, but unless you're on Kirby, then the soft plastics can't, yet they're both 4. So just don't mind me while my brain just does like the Windows reboot scene. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I think that's where we're going down as well. It is so confusing, like depending if you're Newcastle Council, Lake Macquarie, like they've all got their own little rules, and there's not just a set standard. Put all this here, we can if you move house, you've nearly got to get our document and be like, oh, okay, this is what this area now allows. And I think that's where we're going down as well. We're making it too confusing and we're adding too much stuff. So people are like, red bin.
That was a great question and great answer, thank you. We have time for one more question. Oh, 2, we can do 2, that's fine, yeah.
Just from a slightly different angle, and the important thing I think in some ways for the help stories on, and without telling us your secrets, did you find it hard to come up with your price for the products that you're selling?
I'm going to be super honest, that wasn't my job. My husband came up with a spreadsheet where it has lots of calculations, and so he did all our cost of goods and like running the factory, the average cost of what we pay for plastic, labour and time, and I just plug in things and it spits it out. So But we did a lot of research on like Fantastic Furniture, Harvey Norman, Domain, Amart before we started, so that we had an idea of what people were buying as a 4-seater table, as a bookcase, because our goal and continues to be is to be like that medium sort of level where we're not crazy cheap, because we can't be if we want to get some profit, but then we're not trying to be high end. Like, we want people of all walks of life to not go, okay, I really need a new table, but I also need some money left over in my bank account. And I don't want sustainability to be that only the rich can afford to get, like, for example, the eco decking, which is hugely costly compared to just regular wood. And so that's been one of our big things on going, okay, we need to make it that sustainable options are available for everyone.
Amazing. We just had one more question. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, you said all that wonderful experimenting that you've been doing.
Yes.
I love the fact that you've done maths and science and now you're loving science.
Yes, I do.
I just wondered, do you think you may already have kind of discovered some things about being able to produce things that other people are not able to do because of what you've been through, and that maybe there'll be something you could process that you'll be able to license off as well?
Yes, well, I hit a point about a month ago where I realised I knew something that I couldn't Google. And I thought, that just shows how much planning and trialing and research we've actually done, because the answer is not there. And yeah, I feel like we've had to make our own sorts of processes and things that hopefully we can continue to get it out once we've, got to. I mean, every day I feel like there's some sort of challenge. So
yeah, because that might be a very exportable thing. Doesn't
yeah.
Licensing process.
Well, money in that, you're making it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again, Jess. That was incredible. Just thank you everyone for being here and coming in this morning. I really appreciate it. Just keep an eye out for next month's Startup Stories. You'll see all of the advertisements for that. But other than that, guys, have a wonderful day and thank you so much.
Thank you.